Hello there, and welcome to the first video of my series on the basics of paleontology. Now, as you probably know, paleontology is the study of fossils. So today we're going to talk about types of fossils and methods of fossilization. There are a few kinds of fossils: body fossils, trace fossils, molecular fossils, and carbon fossils. Body fossils are the fossilized remains of living creatures. Trace fossils are marks left behind by living creatures, things like tracks, burrows, and coprolites. Molecular fossils are organic molecules produced by living things mixed into sediment and preserved. And carbon fossils are thin layers of carbon left from a soft-bodied organism getting buried. Now, fossils can form in a lot of different ways. One common means of preservation for bones in certain parts of plants is permineralization. Now, bones and certain plant parts are quite porous, full of empty spaces. In permineralization, the empty spaces are filled up with mineral-laden fluid, and then minerals precipitate out of the water, crystallizing in the pore spaces. Perhaps the most well-known method of fossilization is called replacement. In replacement, the original minerals making up the bones and other hard parts of the animal are replaced by minerals found in the surrounding soil. Fossils formed by replacement have none of the original material that was found in the bones. Replacement and permineralization often take place in the same fossil. A good example of this is petrified wood, in which the wood has been replaced by minerals and the pore spaces filled in. In some cases, the minerals making up a bone or shell will dissolve and recrystallize into a more stable form. In cases like this, the size and shape of the bone will remain the same, but certain fine details may be removed. Carbon fossils, or carbonized remains, are formed from the burial of a soft-bodied organism. These films are extremely thin and show a great level of detail. Insects and leaves are often preserved as carbonized remains. Most times when an organism is trapped in amber, it gets preserved as a carbon film within it. So sorry, no blood found in those preserved mosquitoes. Another method of preservation is casts and molds. Molds may be formed as either an external mold when the shell is pushed into soft sediment, leaving an impression to fill in, or as an internal mold when a shell is filled in by sediment which hardens before the shell dissolves. Now, casts form when sediment fills in a mold and hardens. Lastly, I'd like to talk about unaltered remains. Now, as you might think, unaltered remains are simply animal remains that have not been significantly altered by their method of preservation. Unaltered mineralized remains are simply shells and exoskeletons made of geologically stable minerals that didn't dissolve. Occasionally, relatively young fossil bones, like those from the La Brea tar pits, will have very little alteration. Soft tissues and other non-mineralized parts may be preserved by freezing. This is the best method of preservation when it comes to seeing a life form as it truly was, but is extremely limited to only the very young fossils. So that's all for our first video on the basics of paleontology. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video and want to see more of this content, please leave a like and consider subscribing. I really do appreciate it. And if you'd like to suggest a topic for a future episode, leave a comment. Till next time.